underperforming and downright disappointing standard cards in 2016. When you think of a card that you thought was going to be good but then it was crap, that's the list we're about to dive into. Now before we do that, in case you didn't know, our Kickstarter for our limited edition winter playmat is going on right now. This playmat is only available for 3 more weeks and then never again. If you want to help the channel continue, you can click the link on the screen or in the description to purchase a piece of Manosaurus history. Alright, let's get into it. To be overhyped or to underperform in 2016, a card wouldn't need enough time to do either, which means that for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing on cards from Magic Origins forward except Kaladesh. Kaladesh hasn't been in Standard long enough for anything to fail just yet. Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged were only in Standard in 2016 for a few months, so they are firmly back in 2015. Also, and this is especially important, a card can see play but still be overhyped. This list is talking about the cards we thought were going to do crazy things. If a card is a sideboard staple, but we all expected it was going to change the format, yeah, that's underperforming. So as we go through this list, keep that in mind. Now with all that said, we'll begin with Magic Origins and move forward in time. Back when Magic Origins was first spoiled, the absolute most overhyped card in the set was Days Undoing. Arguably the fixed version of the Power 9 spell Time Twister, Days Undoing was supposed to warp or even destroy Standard by giving blue such a powerful redraw weapon. The idea was to use this spell when it would give you the most advantage, ideally refilling your hand and refilling your library with all of the powerful spells you've been casting all game, without any of the pesky lands you already played. Should have been a win-win. The problem was that the downside on the card, your turn ends if it's your turn, was debilitating for it. Never really picking up steam, the card quickly dropped from over $20 to a cool $2 in the matter of a few months. It found rare play in the sideboard of Banned Company before rotation, but nothing close to what we all thought it had the potential for. Now that it's rotated, it sees play occasionally in random modern or vintage decks, but the Undoing has nowhere consistent to call home. What was once touted as a functional reprint by some, now forgotten by many. There were many cards in Magic Origins that raised players' brows, but there were few that gave the older players like me instant nosebleeds when we saw them. Goblin Piledriver was one of those few. Instantly brought back to the horror of goblins in Standard during Onslaught block, a lot of us naturally freaked out. Goblin Piledriver is arguably the most powerful goblin ever printed, responsible for an entire Standard archetype, and one of the key cards in Legacy Goblins. You can understand why we would be a bit scared. The last time we saw this card, it wrecked everyone. Needless to say, we overhyped this card a tiny bit. Now don't get me wrong, goblins had their heyday. Atarka Red, Mono Red goblins, and every variation in between ended up running the Piledriver at some point. The problem? The versions with the Piledriver didn't exactly dominate like everyone thought they would. A card that absolutely destroyed Standard so long ago was just a sidekick now. You can see that reflected in the card's price. Starting at $15, the highest it ever got again would be $4 before the release of Shadows over Innistrad, when for a short period of time there was a popular Goblins deck in Modern, but beyond that, not nearly as powerful as we assumed it might be. Let's move on to Battle for Zendikar, and oh man, if you want to talk about a set with some Standard disappointments, look no further. We'll begin with Kiora, Master of the Depths. Now, before you go crazy, I know it's recently found limited play in Team or Emerge decks. I know that. The problem? There was an 8-month gap between Kiora seeing any semblance of play. Used in a weird variety of decks from late 2015 to early 2016, including the fan-favorite blue-green ramp, Kiora never really found her footing. A Simic Walker with decent loyalty, a way to protect herself, sometimes, and card advantage, she was expected to be at least consistently played throughout her tenure in Standard, and that just hasn't been the case. Is she the most overhyped card in this video? Definitely not, but did you expect copies to cost literally $2 a piece? I sure didn't. Probably the biggest disappointment from Battle for Zendikar is Drana, Liberator of Malakir, and this one breaks my heart, even if I don't like aggro decks. Drana was the bee's knees when she was spoiled. Cheap cost, 2 relevant combat keywords, and a monstrously powerful ability, Drana was supposed to lead red-black aggro decks to constant victory. And for a short time last fall, she sort of did. Red-black aggro performed decently after Drana was released, but it didn't take long for the archetype to fall to pieces, overshadowed by the 4-color decks that would plague Standard until the fetch lands rotated earlier this year. But because she was powerful at one time, players held out hope and her price never dipped below $7 until Shadows over Innistrad came out. There must be good vampires here, right? It's Innistrad. Nope. Shadows made white the most powerful color in Magic, and Drana was, once again, left by the wayside. Dropping steadily in price, you can get the vampire ally for a measly $3 now. A far fall from her lofty perch at 20 on release. Sad day. The last Battle for Zendikar card we have to talk about is Undergrowth Champion. A fan favorite, most of us thought this was going to be around for a long time. With a powerful landfall trigger and an ability that refused to let it die, the champion was supposed to spearhead the red-green landfall strategy that Battle for Zendikar laid out. That did not happen. Coming into Standard at an extremely volatile time, Undergrowth Champion simply didn't impact the board fast enough and didn't protect itself against removal well enough. And while some budget landfall strategies did make some waves, some of them didn't even run the champion. By the end of 2015, the Undergrowth Champion was old news, dropping under $4 with the ringing in of the new year. Long drop from its $20 release price. It's still in Standard, and the card is 50 cents. 50 cents! That is a tough break. Bible thump for days. In regards to Oath of the Gatewatch, the set did pretty well comparatively at tempering expectations. Most of the expected good cards are good, most of the expected bad cards are bad. Compared to other standard sets, this one went pretty much how we expected it to go. If I had to pick a card that was a tad bit overhyped, it'd be Mirror Pool. Yeah, remember that card? Because most players don't. The hope was that you could sacrifice the pool and copy a powerful spell, or copy a powerful creature to abuse and enter the battlefield trigger, or get a second copy before your first copy is removed. A utility card, as it were. Come to find out, no one wanted to pay the mana for that, and no one needed the colorless mana source due to them being readily available elsewhere, and it entered the battlefield tapped. It didn't take long for players to cut ties with this weird mythic. Nowadays it only sees consistent play in Commander, where it follows the Eldrazi legends around. Not much of a life, but a life nonetheless. Moving into Shadows over Innistrad territory, these wounds are going to be a little fresher, so be prepared for that. We'll start with Arlinn Kord. As of right now, I'm okay with saying that this is one of the most innately powerful cards in Standard, but there's just nowhere to put this thing. Now I know it's in the sideboard of some green-red energy decks that are doing well, and maybe a few actual werewolf decks or red-green aggro decks, but come on, be real with me here. Arlinn Kord was supposed to do so much more, as were werewolves in general. After seeing Arlinn's card spoiled, I had the highest hopes for the werewolf tribe, and they made a great budget deck, they really did. Explosive, fun, exciting, but never really tier 1 competitive. And Arlinn couldn't find consistent success elsewhere. It really is a shame, she is so dang powerful. The second disappointment from Shadows, Olivia mobilized for war. Remember our talk about Drana? How Drana was supposed to be the one to bring vampires to the forefront? Guess what? That is exactly what we thought when we saw Olivia. Shadows over Innistrad was just coming out, Vampire Central, and new Olivia looked amazing. Great synergy with Madness, cheap cost, powerful ability, but once again, besides some minor successes, Olivia didn't break open the format. Somehow, even with both Olivia and Drana, the red-black vampire-based deck it couldn't do it. It just couldn't. Which leads to Olivia being on this list. One of the biggest disappointments in Standard this year was vampires not coming back in any truly impactful capacity at a high-level tournament play. Alright, time for Eldritch Moon, the last set we're covering. Decimator of the Provinces was supposed to be the fixed Craterhoof Behemoth. We all saw it. This mini overrun granting Eldrazi Boar was supposed to not only impact Standard, but also Modern to a degree. Largely based on the inherent power of the original Craterhoof, the Decimator was designed to be played alongside a go-wide strategy and used solely to overrun the opponent and win the game. And while Craterhoof Behemoth is great at this, the Decimator didn't even have a chance to prove itself. No deck has really come forward with any consistency that can support an all-in card like this. The elf deck that the Behemoth calls home is created specifically to cast it. Nothing in Standard makes this particularly easy to cast, while also allowing you to go wide with enough creatures to win the game. Crazy strong ability, owns Unlimited if you can cast it, but didn't have the tools to make it work in Standard, at least not yet. Personally, this is my number one. This is the most disappointing card in Standard right now, Eldritch Evolution. I cannot fully express to you the excitement players had when they saw the fixed Natural Order. Natural Order is one of the most beloved green cards of all time, and to get a card even remotely like it in Standard, huge deal for a lot of players. The innate power on this card is massive, allowing you to sacrifice any creature and tutor up something larger, putting it directly onto the battlefield. And while tons of interesting combos have been created around the card in both Standard and Modern, neither format has been able to employ the evolution in any meaningful way long term. But this card is so powerful by itself, players still have hope. Look at the foil multiplier on this. Regular copies of this normal rare cost around $2 now, but foils, north of $12. That's a 6 times multiplier. Players still believe in the power of this card, and I hope to Erebos that they find a way to break it, because Eldritch Evolution is friggin' cool. Okay, the absolute last card we need to talk about isn't a disappointment because of its unused power, it's a disappointment because of its existence at all. Ulrich of the Krallen Horde was supposed to be the werewolf commander we've been asking for years. Ulrich was supposed to be something awesome for the format. Finally letting players run a werewolf tribal deck that didn't need to be commanded by Xenagos or some other red-green filler. And sure, Ulrich is a werewolf, but he's a terrible commander, he's just awful. His enter the battlefield effect isn't exciting, and when he flips, it's a removal spell, sometimes. This isn't the kind of impact any of us wanted when we were looking for a new puppy commander. So while no one expected anything from Ulrich in Standard to begin with, you can't blame me for still being a little salty about this, right? Dang it, when's the next time we'll see werewolves again? Ugh. And that's going to do it for this 2016 recap video. Let me know what you think. Do you like this topic? Do you like the style of it all? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on everything. Also, be sure to let me know which cards were your most overhyped, which cards disappointed you, let you down, made you feel bad and cry for merely existing. You know, the usual. Also, be on the lookout for more videos this weekend and throughout the week. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. We've been talking about Standard this whole time, but you know what's coming to Standard? Aether Revolt. Only a month away at this point, Aether Revolt boxes are available on TCG Player for pre-order right now for $92 each. Totally fair price. If you don't have a local game store or your store is charging way too much, get your pre-orders right here. Super easy, fair prices, good service, win-win. In this video, we're going to switch gears. We're going to look forward to 2017, specifically Modern Masters 2017. With all the excitement of the past 2 offerings in Magic, most people forgot the supplemental product is even on the horizon. But believe it or not, the next Modern Masters installment is coming out in only 3 short months on March 17th. We don't know that much about the set so far, but we do know that Wizards made special mention that we're going back to original Innistrad and Return to Ravnica blocks. With that information in hand, we made part 1 of our Modern Masters prediction series that you should really check out before you watch this video. We talk about literally every card that needs reprinting from RTR and Innistrad block, along with the best land cycles to print in the set. In this video, we're going to cover the top 10 best rares and mythics to reprint in Modern Masters that aren't a part of Innistrad or Return to Ravnica block. And remember, if you enjoy this video and videos like these, be sure to hit the like button, it helps out a lot. Again, remember, nothing from Innistrad, Dark Ascension, Avacyn Restored, Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, or Dragon's Maze will be included in this video. All those cards were covered, so if you don't see something you expect to be here, and it's from one of those sets, you can bet it's in part 1. Just go watch part 1. Also, a bit of tough love, we're talking the best cards to reprint. That means some personal favorites will fall by the wayside. For instance, Scapeshift, Dark Confidant, and Arcbound Ravager are not on this list. Could we use reprints? Heck yes, absolutely. But in the current metagame, these are just too narrow, and while I'd love to see them again, we're talking best reprints, so universally good for the most people. Let's talk honorable mentions. Both Mox Opal and Glimmervoid make our honorable mentions list. Both Staples and Affinity and Lantern Control, each of these cards has had a useful reprint. The problem? They're just too popular. While supply has increased, demand skyrocketed. In the case of the more expensive Mox Opal, the Modern Masters 2015 reprint simply stopped the card from increasing in price, rather than make it substantially cheaper. We could use reprints for both of these cards as they're played in multiple strategies, but as you'll see in a minute, there are much worse cases out there. That's why these are honorable mentions. The last honorable mention is Chalice of the Void. This was a card I wrestled with. Sitting at around $40, Chalice is a staple in the newly popular prison strategies and scapeshift combo decks. The problem? Chalice is more popular in both Legacy and Vintage, so we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, a reprint would be just glorious, but at this point, isn't Chalice better suited for the next Eternal Master set? Now don't get me wrong, it already had a modern reprint, so it's not like there isn't precedent, but the tides have changed for Chalice, and its stability is in Legacy more so than Modern. So yes, Chalice desperately needs a reprint, but it isn't going to do as much to help Modern as you might think. Onto the list itself, we begin at number 10 with Ensnaring Bridge. One of the most hated cards in the format, the Bridge has been a menace to Modern society and Lantern control. But lately, more and more strategies are picking up the Bridge as a sideboard staple against creature-based decks. In a format like Modern, sideboard answers are basically everything. And while the Bridge's value on the board increases, its price becomes more erratic. Granted, it's taken a bit of a hit recently, we're still talking about a card around $35 that is not so easy to find. Wizards likes to ignore the super old Modern cards like this that are just fundamentally broken, but if you're going to allow Ensnaring Bridge to remain in the format, at least let players get their sideboard copies. Number 9 is Horizon Canopy. I am sick of seeing this card's price. Played in most on-color Tron variants, as well as a slew of Ogzan decks, Horizon Canopy's lack of supply has really pushed the Tron mana base out of reach for a lot of players. Commanding north of $60 per Nearman copy, this stupid land is increasing the price of one of the most popular strategies in the format by a significant amount. It's hard to beat the card cycling value on this, and even Legacy decks know what's up, with Death and Taxes loving some Canopy. Look, this card getting reprinted isn't going to change Modern forever, but it's one of those corner case cards that's avoided any meaningful reprint and has real value in the format. It needs the reprint, and it's not going to get it anywhere else. Number 8 is the dreaded Blood Moon. Most of you knew it had to be on this list. Arguably the most hated card in Modern, Blood Moon is the ultimate hate machine for multicolored decks. While it was printed in original Modern Masters, that didn't stop the price from spiking back in mid-2015 to north of $40. It has maintained that inflated price since then, and with consistent inclusion in its namesake deck, Thing in the Ice aggro, White-Red Prison, Affinity, and more, Blood Moon is one of the sideboard staples in the format. And while you hate the card, and I know you do, if it's going to be in Modern, it should be affordable. Clearly 5 different printings aren't enough, it's time to bring Blood Moon back. Coming in at number 7 is Noble Hierarch. This is the first card we're talking about that was actually printed in Modern Masters 2015. And in a year and a half, it's managed to double in price, now commanding a $55 price tag per copy. That's already egregious. But what makes it worse? It's popular in Modern. Infect needs it, most Ban Eldrazi strategies have to have it, almost all Obzan variants run some number, as well as a crapload of Tier 2 creature-based strategies. Before Noble Hierarch was printed in Modern Masters 2015, I said it needed printing there, and I'm going to give you the same reason now that I gave you then. No mana dork should cost this much money. This is an enabler. This card smooths your deck out, gives you consistency, and just makes your deck better. I'm sorry, but there's no way I'm okay with a fair mana dork costing this much money. And you shouldn't be either, it's honestly insane. Noble Hierarch has to come back, it just has to. Alright, some heavy truths. Number 6 is Tarmogoyf. I know, it's been printed in the original Modern Masters and Modern Masters 2015, but I don't care. I don't care one bit. We've gotten so used to seeing Tarmogoyf in the triple digits, we just write it off as something normal. I am sick of that. No single card should cost this much in Modern. I refuse to acknowledge that as being okay. I hate it, I think it's ridiculous. Tarmogoyf needs to keep being reprinted because costing $110 a copy and $60 a copy is a world of difference for a lot of players. Maybe not for some, but definitely for those who are really trying to build a deck that needs Tarmogoyf. And the worst part? People ask all the time for budget alternatives to Tarmogoyf, and the problem is they just don't exist. Nothing does what Tarmogoyf does for the same cost. That's why it's $110. Some cards try, but you have to acknowledge that they just aren't effective. I'm sick of seeing this card so expensive. If the goal of Modern is to get more players into it, you can't have $100 staples. With Tarmo seeing consistent play in Jund, Obzan variants, and Death Shadow Zoo, it's really come to a head. You gotta bring it back again, please. Entering our top 5 is Goblin Guide. I'm beginning to lose my patience here, as I'm sure many of you are as well. Goblin Guide is one of the quintessential red creatures in the Modern format. Consistently a staple in Burn across various formats, the guide was printed way back in original Zendikar, and then as a Grand Prix promo, and then never again! I don't understand how we've gone this long without Goblin Guide. 2 Modern Master sets have passed, multiple Conspiracies, Eternal Masters. There have been opportunities to print the guide, but they just haven't. And while yes, I did say I was going to avoid cards that were too narrow, Burn is one of the popular introductory archetypes to Modern. It's important for the format that this new player-friendly deck is at least somewhat affordable, and Goblin Guide is a big part of that. For the future and health of Modern, there should be a premium on keeping the introductory archetypes low in cost, clearly overdue for a reprint here. Coming in at number 4 is Inkmoth Nexus, a staple in 2 of the most popular strategies in the format, Infect and Affinity. I'm surprised the Nexus isn't worth double what it's worth. And while it has just recently been printed as a promo, its only real printing is still in Mirrodin Besieged. A small set from years ago, spiking to $45 a piece earlier this year, the Nexus has settled to around $25, but this is just another barrier to entry for 2 of the most popular decks in the format. Considering its already limited supply, can you imagine the price spike if this isn't in Modern Masters 2017? Everyone knows this is a time bomb waiting to blow. I'd rather not see that happen. Alright, top 3. Can you guess which cards we're talking about? There are some surprises here, I guarantee it. Now, probably the biggest joke in the entire format enters in at number 3, Damnation. Why is it a joke? Because players have been asking for this card to be reprinted for a half decade. And whenever a new supplemental reprint set comes out, we're positive it'll be in it, but it never is. It never is. With a single measly printing in Planar Chaos, Damnation has reached a new high north of $60 per copy. In previous iterations of this list, talking about the cards in Modern that need reprinting the most, Damnation was never this high, simply because it was used more in Commander than Modern. There are Modern seasons where it's all virtually no play at all, but this time around, that couldn't be further from the truth. Damnation has burrowed its way into Jund, Grixis control decks, Obzan variants, and more, now one of the more popular black removal spells in the format. This is the final nail in the coffin. The community has been patient. Yeah, it's a funny joke, but we need Damnation back. Things are getting out of control, and it isn't right. Top 2. I guarantee you these are 2 cards you wouldn't expect on the top of the list. Number 2 is Spellskite. I know what you're thinking. This was just printed in Modern Masters 2015, and the card is only $20. Both of those things are true. You know what else is true? It's played in literally everything in the format. Some people don't notice Tarmogoyf at $110, or even Damnation at $65, but everyone knows the price of Spellskite because the stupid card can fit into everything, and mess with almost anything in some way. The ultimate hate spell in the format, Spellskite is universally popular, which makes anything that happens to it important. If we're going to reprint cards that will help Modern, we should reprint one of its most played cards that is currently $20 a copy. Think about the total amount of money you'd be saving the entire Modern community, especially newcomers. A wide-reaching reprint like this would affect more players than any of the previously mentioned cards. It's about helping all of Modern, and Spellskite has to keep coming back to do that. We finally made it, number 1. Now that you've seen the list, can you guess what it is? If you guessed Engineered Explosives, you'd be right. It's a good thing we didn't need to make this list 6 months ago, because man, the Explosives would not have been on it. But right after the release of Eldritch Moon, the Explosives jumped to a whopping $60 a copy before settling at $50. This momentous jump has created a real problem in Modern. I don't think anyone really noticed before, but the Explosives have worked their way into almost every non-aggro strategy. We're talking Jund, Scapeshift, Grixis Delver, Obzan, Ban Eldrazi, I mean the list goes on. Much like Spellskite, the Explosives is quickly becoming a universal staple. And while each player may only be running 1 or 2 copies, those copies costing north of $50 each is not attractive for the format. You don't want sideboard cards to be what sets people back. If something has to be expensive, you want it to be the key mainboard linchpin cards. There's no fun shelling out hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for sideboard cards. Again, if the goal of Modern Masters is to help Modern, it's clear that this is the most needed reprint right now.
Wow, this is a long video. If you made it to the end, could you drop a little smiley face or a heart or something? Thanks for sticking with us. Let me know what you think about the list. Where do you land on these cards? Which cards do you want reprinted the most? I'd love to hear what you have to say. I know we all have long lists for Modern Masters 2017. And remember, Innistrad and Return to Ravnica block were already covered in the previous installment, so be sure to check that out. Link is in the description. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Rather than give you some specific cards to look at, I'm going to let you know about the current 4% kickback deal through December 18th. That's right, 4% credit kicked back to you on the total value of your product purchase now through December 18th. So if you're looking for something you really need, why not get 4% of that back in credit? That's just value. If you're interested, click the link in the video, browse TCG Player, get what you need, it helps the channel, we're all happy, and everyone wins. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. The Modern Masters 2017 was just announced for release next spring. You know what that means. We obviously have to figure out what the heck is going to be in the set. We don't have a lot of information to go on, but we have a little bit, which is definitely enough for us to get started on figuring the set out. In this two-part series, we're going to look at which cards have the most realistic chances of being reprinted in the set, and which cards would be the absolute best to reprint. It's going to be fun. If you enjoy videos like these and want more of them in the future, be sure to hit that like button. It's a lot. Now remember, before we dive in, we're going to talk about both the most realistic cards to reprint and the best cards to reprint. What do I mean by best? I mean cards that are both popular and need increased accessibility. I don't care if you think Ad Nauseam is too expensive, that isn't going to be in these videos. Way too narrow. These videos are about hitting the overarching, most needed cards. Lastly, Wizards of the Coast went out of their way to specify that trips to Innistrad and Return to Ravnica were going to be a thing. That's where we're going to start. Alright, I think I've said my piece. Let's get right into it. If Wizards tells you that we're going somewhere, we should probably listen. We'll begin with Innistrad block, which means Innistrad, Dark Ascension, and Avacyn Restored. Nothing is off limits here. Remember how we used the excuse that everything couldn't be in Modern Masters 2015 because they needed cards for Modern Masters 2017? Well, here's 2017, so we're not pulling our punches. If we're going back to Innistrad, we need a Liliana of the Veil reprint. I will not budge on this. The card is played in Jund, Abzan, Mardu control decks, Grixis control decks, even played in Legacy for goodness sakes. And despite massive outcry, there's been no non-promo reprint. She's $100. It's unacceptable, beyond unacceptable. If we're going to Innistrad, Liliana of the Veil has to be printed or it's a travesty. There, I said it. You know, there's one other card we better have as well. Oh yeah, I didn't forget. Snapcaster Mage is certainly a high-value target for a set like this. Sitting at about $50 a piece right now, the Innistrad rares in Jeskai Control, and in Control variant really, Scave Shift, most blue decks in Modern to be honest. The big problem? It's played more in Legacy. Miracles, Legacy Delver decks, Deathblade. Snapcaster Mage is a huge staple there. If Eternal Masters 2 is going to be a thing, you could see Snapcaster Mage miss a reprint this year in favor of an Eternal reprint next year. Would I like that? No, I would not, but you gotta admit, that is definitely something Wizards would do. Those are the two big ones. Before we focus on the rest of Innistrad block, I should mention something. Snapcaster Mage might not be the only victim of Eternal Masters 2. Cavern of Souls, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and Craterhoof Behemoth are all high-value cards that need reprints. They're also all cards that see significantly more play in Legacy than they do in Modern. Not that they don't see play in Modern, just that, you know, they put up better results in Legacy, which may lead to them being forgotten for Modern Masters this time around. So what does that leave us with? A lot, actually. Let's take a look. Original Innistrad has Stony Silence, almost $10, Casting Flames, almost $10. Both of those would be nice reprints. But I'm looking at lands from the set. The Innistrad lands are all worth a decent amount, most at least $5 each. They're played in Modern and Commander pretty extensively. They wouldn't make up a decent land cycle, but I have my eyes on something better, which we'll talk about later. If we're not talking about the classic rare land cycle, I think a few of the utility lands can use a reprint. Gavany Township is a $6 staple in Modern. Even as a one-off, I'd like this back before it gets ridiculous. Besides those cards, nothing super crazy pops out from the original set. Dark Ascension is a weird set. The most expensive card is Micaeus the Unhallowed due to a ton of commander play. That's why $20. After that, Jund All-Star Huntmaster of the Fells is sitting at around $13. That'd make a good reprint. So would Grafdigger's Cage at $11.50. If they wanted a zombie sub, Queen Gravecrawler and Geralt's Messenger are both worth $5, that brings some additional value. There are other interesting cards in Dark Ascension, but we're focusing on the best and most needed reprints, so for now we'll have to move on. Avacyn Restored is a set that created eternally playable cards. Gristlebrand, Cavern of Souls, Craterhoof Behemoth, Avacyn Angel of Hope. All these cards need reprints, yes. All of them also see more play in Legacy than in Modern, hence our Eternal Masters 2 issue. If that set wasn't a thing, I'd say you could expect at least 2 of these cards to be reprinted. Since Eternal Masters does exist, don't think you can do that, and that sucks. Of course, there are other cards of value here. Restoration Angel sees huge play in Modern, you could use a reprint as it's above $10 right now. Tamiyo seems like a fine reprint, but I'd be worried it's out of place. I'd love it, and the card is $20, so you know it would be welcome, but we're talking about a walker that doesn't see a lick of Modern play right now. I don't want to get my hopes up. Besides those, Exquisite Blood is nice, but it's a commander staple. Sigarda's value is mostly commander-based, same with Gisela. Entreat is Legacy. Yeah, I think we've exhausted our Avacyn Restored options. Let's move on to Return to Ravnica, the other block Wizards specifically mentioned in their announcement. Comprised of Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, and Dragon's Maze, Return to Ravnica block has a ton of playable cards. The issue? Most of them are not expensive. The entire block as a whole is incredibly cheap with a few exceptions. We'll begin with Return to Ravnica itself. The set's value is entirely based on the Shocklands right now. The 5 of them are in the top 10 most valuable cards in the set. We don't want Shocklands back in Modern Masters. At an MSRP of $10 per pack, Shocks aren't going to help us. Of course they are Modern staples, but we really aren't having an availability or price issue, so let's ignore them for now. The best cards in Return to Ravnica for Modern are Abrupt Decay and Supreme Verdict. Decay is sitting at $10 right now and the Verdict at $6. There are other good cards in the set obviously, but much cheaper than these two. Even if they were to reprint these staples, we're still under the MSRP of a pack. And that's all Return to Ravnica brings value-wise. Let's hope we have more luck with Gatecrash. This just in, we are not going to have more luck with Gatecrash. Shocklands are 5 out of the top 5 most expensive cards in the set. Literally 1 through 5, all of them worth between $10 and $13. While that is a non-zero amount, again, it isn't what we're looking for in regards to a land cycle for the set, so we'll pass on those. After that, there's nothing. No, I'm not joking, there's nothing. Domri Raid is $8, sees no play. Legion Loyalist, $6, good card but easy to get. Then nothing, there's just nothing. So Gatecrash is a bust. What about Dragon's Maze? Voice of Resurgence. How much do you want to bet that we're only going back to Ravnica so we can get a reprint of Voice of Resurgence? This $30 card is worth more than the next 8 most expensive cards in the set combined. Dragon's Maze is a pile of poop, and Voice of Resurgence is the only thing dragging it back from an actual garbage fire. Rail Zarek is $9, cool. The friggin' Elemental token is the 3rd most expensive card in the set at $5. Look, just Dragon's Maze sucks for value. All of Return to Ravnica sucks for value. It's a great block for gameplay. I really enjoyed it, but wow, there is no money here. Oh boy. So what have we learned so far? Innistrad has a ton of high value cards that need reprints. Half of them we could totally see. The other half probably slated for Eternal Masters too, but there is hope. Innistrad has a lot of greatness. Return to Ravnica, not so much. Great set, wonderful mechanics, good gameplay, garbage for value. Besides the Shocklands, there's only a single card in the entire block worth more than $9. That's not a good thing. Hopefully the set doesn't focus too much on this block. That would be ugly. Now that we're done with that, what do we really need reprinted the most? Do I really have to tell you? Fetchlands. For the love of all things holy, Fetchlands, we friggin' need Fetchlands. I do not want to wait another year. I don't find that acceptable. If you're going to print a land cycle, please, just please make it fetch lands, please. We need the Zendikar lands back so badly. How many times can you look at this graph and not want to vomit? This is not okay. This is going to destroy Modern. We have a mini dual land situation going on here. Reprint them at rare. Please, you have to, just please. Okay, I got a little heated there. If you don't print fetch lands, we'll take the filter lands. We'll only be kind of happy about it, but we'll take them. Played in multiple strategies in Modern, the filter lands are a great way to infuse the set with value. Led by Twilight Mire, the filter lands clearly aren't going down anytime soon. Zendikar Expeditions are cool, but they're hardly real reprints. We need at least a part of the cycle to come back. All the way from Cascade Bluffs to Rugged Prairie, these prices are going up, and that is not okay. Personally, I think the fetches or filters have to be reprinted in this set. If they aren't, whatever is there instead of them won't even make MSRP. I mean, 3 of the World Wake lands do, but I don't want to be the one opening Lava Claw Reaches, so fetches or filters. Modern Masters 2015 did a great job at reprinting a lot of key mythics and some decent rares. Where it really failed, the uncommons. Totally bombed on printing good uncommons. If Modern Masters 2017 is going to do better, we need better uncommons. Which uncommons, you ask? Oh, I'll tell you. Lightning Bolt and Path to Exile are the top 2 most played cards in Modern right now. If they aren't in the set, that's ridiculous. I don't care that Bolt has been reprinted recently, this is a card that needs a million reprints. Path to Exile is in a much more dire situation than Bolt though. Sitting at $10, it's outrageous this card wasn't in Modern Masters 2015. We really need a price reduction there. Time to rattle off a ton of other uncommon worthy cards. Okay, here we go, rapid fire. Gitaxian Probe is a top 10 most played card. Uncommon rarity shifted, I don't care. Ancient Stirrings. Not only is this a staple in Tron, but it's infiltrated the Eldrazi decks. Makes it even more relevant as a good reprint target, and at over $3 each, totally unacceptable. Rarity shifted to uncommon, just get it printed. Lightning Helix. Premier burn spell in Modern, played everywhere it can be, over $5 each right now. Even with 5 printings, this is not enough. It has to come back. Wild Nikalo could be the next $5 common if we aren't careful. A primary staple in every Modern Zoo deck, this Cat Warrior has to come back. Shards of Alara and 2 limited printings, not enough, bring it back. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Spell Pierce needs more than 1 printing. Only ever printed in Zendikar, this Modern mainstay counterspell is over $2. For a common printed in the last 10 years to be over $2, no, fix it. Kitchen Finks. Do I really even have to say anything at this point? This is a $15 uncommon. $15, 15. Are you serious? Are you actually serious? If this isn't in Modern Masters 2017, I have no words. Finally, friggin' Spell Snare. One of the most popular counters in the format, Spell Snare still costs around $8 even with a Modern Masters printing. That isn't good enough, it needs to come back. Alright, nailed it. Obviously, there are other great candidates for quality common and uncommon reprints, but I strongly believe that the ones I mentioned are the best candidates. Of course, it's important to reprint quality rares and mythics, but the commons and uncommons are the foundation of the set. They add actual value to the pack. That's one of the reasons players loved Modern Masters 1 so much. It had great uncommon quality. Modern Masters 2015 had virtually nothing. That made a huge difference in pack value. It's something to think about. This was only the first of 2 videos on this subject. In the next installment, we're going to focus on the mythics and rares that need reprinting the most. Until then, what do you think about Modern Masters 2017's potential? Do you think it can correct the mistakes made in Modern Masters 2015 and really bring the set back to prominence for a lot of people? What would have to be in the set for you to buy it? Which cards do you want to see the most? I gotta know what you're thinking. This is always a huge release, and I know a lot of you care about Modern, so please share your thoughts. As always, be sure to subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com, lots of Modern talk, and while there are some crazy expensive Modern cards out there, Modern Masters 2015 did move the prices of some great staples. Daybreak Coronet, the bomb aura for those enchantment decks, is still reeling from its Modern Masters 2015 reprint. You can grab copies right now for only $5 each. Seems pretty sweet considering it was once like, what, 30 bucks? Yeah, good deal. Deck not your thing? Not an issue. How about Surgical Extraction? One of my favorite sideboard cards in older formats, only $5 just like the Coronet. If you need these modern staples, now is a great time to pick them up. Enjoy.
Modern Masters 2017 is the next supplemental product installment from Wizards of the Coast, designed to provide a fun limited experience while also reprinting important and needed modern staples. As we've discussed previously, the set coming out in March of 2017 will reprint cards throughout Modern's history, but will pay special attention to both Return to Ravnica and Innistrad blocks. Up to this point, we've released 2 videos on the cards we need to see in Modern Masters 2017. The first focused on all the cards from RTR block and Innistrad block, and the second covered the top 10 best rares and mythics we need to see in the set to help Modern as a format. You can see both of these videos by clicking on the screen, super easy. In this video, we're going to finish our MM 2017 series by talking about the most needed common and uncommon reprints in all of Modern. This list was difficult to make and there's a lot to go through, so we'll get right to it. And if you enjoyed this video and videos like this, be sure to hit that like button, helps out a lot. Before we get started, a few quick things. First, remember, none of these cards will be from Return to Ravnica or Innistrad block. Those were all covered back in the first video on this topic. Second, this list is about what is needed to help the most players in Modern. Which cards need reprinting the absolute most to help the format grow and prosper. This means a few things. First, cards that are too narrow do not make the list. Think Become Immense, Blighted Agent, and Dakmor Salvage. All quite good cards, but very specific in use. We're also not including cards that are better suited for the next Eternal Masters. Think Dryad Arbor and Young Pyromancer. While both of these cards do see play in Modern, Young Pyromancer has already been in Eternal Masters, and Dryad Arbor's popularity is...
Hello everyone and thank you for tuning into Trade Chat. My name is Panzer. If you are new here, this is usually a channel where I upload videos about video games like World of Warcraft and Overwatch, and I like to do unboxings and stuff. But today is the day after Christmas, so I headed over to my P.O. box and this was all waiting for me because you guys are the freaking best. I don't even know. This is so overwhelmingly kind and generous and thoughtful, and I can't wait to open it all. So thank you so much to everybody who sent something, but even to the people yesterday who took the time out to say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas or whatever. So sweet of you guys, and I really appreciate it. And I just, like I said, I feel very lucky to be part of this community and to have the viewers that I do, because you guys have never been anything but awesome to me. So yeah, let me just park the bus to the fields trip and get to opening this stuff. But thank you again, I appreciate it so much, and let's get into the video. So I'm going to start with the smaller stuff and get into the bigger stuff. No reason, that just seems like a logical way to do things. This is an Amazon package, so hopefully it'll say who it's from, because that is a big mistake that a lot of people make. This is, let's see, this is from someone named Martin, so there's no note or anything, but these are Prismacolor Premier blending markers. So, which are something, I don't actually own any of these yet. I was planning on, if I got Christmas money from relatives and stuff, I was planning on getting a set of these Prismacolor markers. They're kind of like Copic markers, but cheaper. So thank you so much much, because from what I understand, you go through the blending markers faster than anything else. So thank you so much. I'm so excited. I've been getting really into art lately. I've always been someone who liked art and considered myself to be an artistic person, but I didn't always, I don't know, pursue it or try to get better. And lately I've really been trying to improve what little skills I have. So I really appreciate it. This is from Renee. And it is, oh, it's a homemade card. I love it. It says Happy Holidays and Happy New Year. And it's all hand drawn. It's really cute. And it says, Panzer, thanks so much for being such a great part of the community and for repping us so well. I hope your holidays are wonderful and your 2017 kicks ass. Many good thoughts and vibes. Love, Renee. Aww. Thank you so much. I love cards. I have this thing in my kitchen that I have hung up with all the Christmas cards that people sent me this year, which was not actually that many, so there's not many on there. There's a couple from last year too, but I am definitely going to put this up. I especially love it. I guess I think it's homemade, but it's really cute. Thank you so much. This was so sweet of you. Aww. So I can't tell if this one is from person or Amazon. It says on the package that it's shipped from someone named Sarah, but oh, it definitely is from someone named Sarah. It's wrapped. I couldn't tell. It was so nicely packaged. There is a letter inside. Ooh, it's very long. Let's see if there's a short. Oh my God, stop it. Okay, so they sent me a picture of their dog. His name's Han Solo. And they sent me a letter, which I'm going to try to read very quickly. Dear Panzer, hi, my name is Danny, and my girlfriend Sarah are... Dear Panzer, hi, my name is Danny. Me and my girlfriend Sarah are big fans of you, Nico, and your pets. We're sorry neither of us are the RP type, so you'll have to accept this boring old real-life letter and gift. That is not... Okay, sorry, my eyebrow itches. There's nothing boring about that. There's a couple people who send me letters, and they're fully, like, quest text role-played, and I just get an absolute kick out of it, but do not feel like this isn't special, because it is. We promise it'll still be awesome and fun, but we're just going to call you Panzer, or Danielle, or Panielle, or Panzer. Definitely Panzer. So anyways, this gift comes as a very small token of appreciation for all the free entertainment that you provide us. There isn't a week that goes by which we don't watch at least one of your videos. Let's be real, we watch all of them. They always make us laugh, and we both enjoy hearing your opinions about Warcraft, Overwatch, and all things nerdy. Sarah particularly enjoys your unboxing videos and is so appreciative of your amazing content. This is such a nice letter. She is always impressed by your consistency and your ability to be a bright spot on any day. It must be extremely difficult to keep up with your production schedule and ignore all of the internet trolls, but she's so thankful that you keep on keeping on by maintaining your positive attitude and down-to-earth personality. I don't want to speak for Sarah, but I think you've also helped her come out of the nerd closet, so to speak. I don't think she would ever admit it, so personally I thank you for that. This is so sweet. I'm a big fan of your Sana Ambra Overwatch theory videos and your long-form chats about updates and current views about the WoW community. I'm starting to blur my words together because I'm getting emotional. Let me read that again. I'm a big fan of your Sombra Anna Overwatch theory videos and your long-form chats about updates and current events in the WoW community. Your upbeat and positive attitude towards the game is refreshing in a time when it seems like most people on the internet just like to complain, poke holes, or straight up plagiarize. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I'm very thankful that you provide us with a fun and inclusive home for all of us who share your views and feelings. I am also from upstate New York. I grew up outside of Saratoga. I went to school in Ithaca. Oh, I went to school in Ithaca for a little while too. You probably are talking about college, but I went to 3rd and 4th grade at, I think the elementary school was called, like, I feel like one was called Southeast and the other one was called, like, North Hill. Does that make sense? I don't know. I went to a lot of schools when I was a kid, but I definitely went to Ithaca schools. Anyways, I'm happy to see you succeeding. So thank you for everything, and please keep up the good work. We hope this gift brings you some joy during the holidays and much use in the future. Thrall's Balls, Danny and Sarah. P.S. Our dog Han Solo recently learned about the loss of Violet. He sends his love to you and Nico, and he also sends a friendly sniff and lick to Tychus. That's so nice. This is so nice. I don't know how to deal with compliments. What do I do? Oh my God, this is amazing. This is 2 Panzer, definitely not a dildo. I appreciate that this is now like the longest running joke in our little community. Why does this have Pepe's all over it? Stop it. What is this? Why does it have Pepe's all over it? Oh my God, open the wrapping paper faster. What? And those are other Pepe's? What is this? Tell me, are these notebooks? Okay, this is too much. Okay, so the first notebook is like Pepe's on Pepe's on Pepe's. It's amazing. They're printed by Society 6, but I'm not sure who the artist is. It looks familiar though. It might be, it doesn't say, I feel like I know the artist that does this, and I'm afraid I'm going to credit the wrong person, but I definitely recognize that Pepe for sure. If you know who the artist who made these is, please let me know in the comments because I would love to credit them. But I've definitely seen this Pepe sold as a sticker, and I just can't for the life of me remember who did it because I follow every freaking WoW artist in the world. These are amazing. This new camera focuses a little bit slower than my old camera, so it might take a second, but I think it's focused in now. I hope so. But these are amazing. Illidan Pepe and other Pepe. And I also have such an affinity for notebooks. Like, every year people get me notebooks as gifts because they know I love them so much. My friend Stacy got me this little Obliviate notebook that I'm obsessed with. So thank you so much. I love these. That's so nice of you. Oh, and that whole letter was so nice. How do I even... How am I should have saved, I wish these were labeled sappy and not sappy so that I would know which ones I can read and still function afterwards, having read them. Alright, this is from, okay, this is from Robert. This is from Robert. And it is, oh my gosh, is this a shirt? Let's see. Oh, it's really soft, I can tell. Oh yes, it's like a leggings shirt. Ooh, heck yes, it's like a long, oh, my headband's not on my head anymore. Gosh darn it. My headband is not on my head anymore, it's gone now. But this is a really cute, long, brown, like tunic top.